Welcome in, everybody. This is the Big Chief Show. I'm your host, Fred Davis. Glad to have you guys on board on a lovely Monday evening. Special Monday edition of the show. We didn't do a show yesterday, yesterday being Sunday. Just had to catch up on some things. And, there was a little bit of preseason football scattered throughout the course of the weekend. And, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs rolled and looked good. Albeit offense looked a little skittish first two drives of the game. And then apparently our guy Pat Mahomes told the offense, look, if you're ready to stop playing, then we need to go out and score. And that's exactly what they went and did on the third drive of the game, and looked like the Kansas City Chiefs offense that we have all come to know and love. And, defense looked good for the most part, but I'm not going to get too overly excited about what I saw from the defensive side of things, simply because it's Colt McCoy and it's a Cardinal team that I don't think anybody is outside of maybe Jonathan Gannon expects anything out of. Maybe. I don't know. I know I certainly don't. If you listen to the show last week with my boy Bit of Mike Babbo, we said that in our 4.5 over-under, I took the under with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, look, they look like they might be a little bit better coach team this year than they were in years past. I don't think there's any question about that. But, I mean, of course, also, too, it's hard to gauge after just two series that we've seen against the Chiefs, or at least in week 2 of the preseason. But at the very least, they're not deep. You can tell this is a team that hasn't drafted very well in years past. Isaiah Simmons looked like he was out on skates for most of the game Saturday afternoon. So I don't know. If you're a Cardinals fan, this is one of those, you're just happy to be looking for draft position next year, I guess, is probably the closest thing that I can think of when it comes down to what you can be excited about as an Arizona Cardinal fan. Chiefs fan, meanwhile, look, it's all about this offense. It's all about this receiver group getting together. Rashee Rice looked every bit of a second-round draft pick on Saturday, had that bobble to start the game, and then proceeded to catch 8 passes for 96 yards right after that, and looked like the guy that you want to get in a second round. I tell you what, showed burst after the ball, showed toughness, showed an ability to catch the ball. And again, I'm not going to get on a guy for, maybe the first catch of the game, a little excited, eyes got a little big, what have you. And more importantly, he caught the next 8 passes, we said. So Justin Ross caught a ball. Travis Kelce caught a ball. So, look, it was a good performance from your Kansas City Chiefs. And it was again, for preseason. And this next guest that we're going to have on knows a thing or two about playing in the preseason. And, of course, this gentleman knows a thing or two about toting the rock. Please welcome one of our first guests of the Big Chief Show. And everybody in Kansas City Chiefs Nation knows who this gentleman is, the one, the only, Mr. Christian Okoye. Okay, Christian, let me see. Is your mic muted?
There you go.
There we go. Running over mute buttons like linebackers and safeties. Well, Mr. Okoye, first and foremost, let me just say that as a 42-year-old Chiefs fan, and I've been a Chiefs fan all my life because, we're at the stage now. And, of course, again, you played with the Chiefs back in the late 80s, early 90s. So we all know your Chiefs roots run through and through. But did you ever think you'd see the day where, the Chiefs have now become, you have to ask Chiefs fans, okay, were you a Chiefs fan pre-Mahomes, or are you a Chiefs fan because of Patrick Mahomes? Because as I'm sure you know, we got a whole slew of folks that are now Chiefs fans because of 15, which, look, I get. It's kind of what happened with New England and Tom Brady.
Well, if you're a Chiefs fan, you have to be a Chiefs fan from way back. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have to be. It can't just be on the bandwagon when the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl now, because we, the old Chiefs, we laid the groundwork for what's going on right now. I like to say so, which is true. I mean, we did. When I got to the Chiefs, when I got to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think my first year we only won 4 games. My second year we won 4 games again. But my third year, was when Marty Schottenheimer came, Carl Peterson came, and everything changed in Kansas City. We were sold out before the season started. Before we would get about 8,000 people up in the stands. But when they came, everything changed, and we started winning.
Okay, and look, that's a great segue. We're going to get to your book here in just a second. Of course, we got 6-year NFL veteran, Chiefs Hall of Famer Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, joining us here on the Big Chief Show. And so, what was interesting is, and again, I was a kid in the 80s, so I remember. I don't remember much about Frank Gans other than the fact that we didn't win a lot. But it seems like, when you look at what happened from 88 to 89, when, and there was a lot of turmoil with that Chiefs team right around when you got drafted, like you said, struggle with Frank Gans, and then Marty Schottenheimer comes in. And let's remember, too, not only did Marty Schottenheimer come in, but let's look at the guys that he brought in from a coaching staff. I mean, your position coach was Bruce Arians, which I'm sure there's plenty of Chiefs fans that don't even remember the fact that Bruce Arians, who's had a very long, illustrious career and, got us a few years ago, was your running backs coach.
Yeah, Bruce Arians, who's a good friend of mine now, we became friends when he came to Kansas City, and he came from Temple University. He was the head coach at Temple, and then Marty hired him to be a running back coach. And at the Chiefs is his first NFL coaching gig. And going back, you have to remember Bill Cowher was on that staff too.
Yeah.
Bill Cowher, Tony Dungy was on that staff too.
Yeah.
And Edwards was on that staff too. So we have just a whole line of great coaches that became, head coaches elsewhere in the NFL.
But your boy Al Saunders was on that coaching staff.
Yes, Al Sanders came. Yeah, Al Sanders, great Al Sanders. I love that man. Good man. But that's when everything started, and I'm going to give you a little blurb, okay? When Marty came, he was hired during the offseason. I never met him before, but he called me. I was in California. He called me. He says, Christian, you mind flying into Kansas City? I'd like to talk with you in person. I said, sure. I'll fly into Kansas City. I got picked up. I went to the office, and I sat down in front of me. He looked at me. He says, you're a big man. I said, thank you, coach. And then he says, the reason why I called you is because I want to take a look at you and also want to tell you that we're going to run the ball, and we're going to run it a lot. Are you ready? I said, coach, I only played 3 years of football before I was drafted, and I've only played 2 years in the NFL. Now, 5 years under my belt as a football player, as a running back. Overall, run the ball is the only thing that I know how to do. I can't read defenses. I can't go out and catch passes or anything like that. He says, you don't have to worry about that. We'll hand you the ball. And that was it. Meeting was only 3 minutes. And he says, that was it. That was it. He says, come on, let me introduce you to the rest of the coaches. And we went around the offices. I met everybody. And that was it. The following day, I was back in California. And sure enough, that's exactly what we did. We ran the ball, and we ran it a lot.
How long did that – because, look, we hear all the time of track guys that try to make that leap to football, and it doesn't happen very often at all. But you had Olympic credentials, and I want to get to you, and I want to talk to you about, you making that jump from, being an Olympic athlete to a football player. But what was that? Football aside, what was it, 1984, 1985, whatever it was, when Nigeria left you off the Olympic team?
Yes.
You wear your country on your sleeve. I've had a chance to talk to several Nigerians over the course of my professional career, and youngsters, guys your age, what have you. I mean, Nigerians are very proud people. What was that like personally and just kind of professionally, and how did you kind of regain your confidence when your own country left you off the Olympic team?
Well, coming to America, my only reason for coming to America is to go to the Olympics, knowing that it was going to be in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And I came here in 1982, And I love track and field. I still do. You know, the World Track and Field is going on. World Championship is going on right now. And I watched it this morning. I'll watch it tomorrow. And it's my first love. But when Nigeria left me off the team, I was very, very disappointed. I was heartbroken. And knowing that I could have medaled, I was doing very well. I was throwing the discus very well. I was traveling to Europe during the off seasons in the summertime competing. And some of those guys who won gold, silver, and bronze were my friends from other countries. I was competing against them, so I know who they were. And so when Nigeria left me off, that was a huge disappointment. And thinking back, I said to myself, well, you know, when track leaves you, you got to look for something else. And I was in love with soccer. I grew up playing soccer, but I was too big now. I was weighing over 280, you know. But my friends around the campus see me and they tell me that I look like a football player, that I should give it a try, but I hated football. I never watched a game, and I didn't want anything to do with football. But right after Nigeria left me off the list, I said, okay, I'm going to do something else. I walked into the football coach's office and I said, Coach, I'd like to play football. He said, okay, what position would you like to play? I didn't know any position, but I remember watching TV and seeing on the news where Marcus Allen reversed the field. They played against the Washington Redskins back then, and in the Super Bowl. So they showed him reverse the field, ran 74 yards, and scored a touchdown. And I told him that. I said, who was that? He said, oh, yeah, that was Marcus Allen, and that was the running back position. I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. I want to be a running back. That's how I became a running back.
Now, is it true you had 4.45 speed?
Oh, yeah, 4.44. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. So you were a discus thrower running a 4.45?
Well, you have to understand, all my friends then were sprinters. So when we practice, I would lift my weights, throw my discus and everything. When we were done, when I was done practicing, they're still running, doing sprints and stuff. So I would go and join them. I kind of challenge them all the time. I said, I'll beat you in 20s. I'll beat you in the 30 yards and so on and so forth. So I had a quick get up. So I beat them sometimes. And of course, a lot of times they beat me. But I always challenge them. And I loved sprinting. And so when I started playing football, I knew I could run fast. So, and I did.
So you and I know just from doing some research and just from reading, you know, you, like you said, you weren't crazy about football, you know, but again, you were, I mean, look, you're a big dude, regardless of whether you played football or not. How long did it take you to really get into football shape? And when did that light come on that, okay, yeah, I might have only been doing this for, you know, a week, 2 weeks, a year, whatever it was. When did the idea of playing in the NFL become a reality for you?
It never came to reality to me. I never really crossed my mind because, like I told you before, I didn't like the game. I didn't like it. And I played it because my friends pushed me into it. And when I started playing, I was like, I even hated it more then. But they keep encouraging me to stay on. I played my first year and I said to my track coach then, Terry Franson, I went to him, I said, Coach, man, I'm done with this stuff, man. I get headaches all the time, bruises everywhere. I don't want to mess with this. You know, I want to go back to track. He said, well, they told me you're doing well. Why don't you give it another week? You know, so he kept encouraging me. I went back for my second year, and then I graduated, you see. And a lot of people say, man, you improved a lot in your second year. Why don't you go back and play your third year? You know, I mean, you're still eligible to play another year. Why don't you go back? I think it was a scout that came and told me that. So I said, okay, I'll go back one more year. And that one more year made a huge difference. Okay. I improved a lot. I ran the ball a lot. And after the season, I was kind of figuring to myself, I'm done with football, you know. And then I received a call. And the call was like, hey, Christian, would you like to play in the Senior Bowl? I thought about it. I'm thinking to myself, I'm done with football, right? But people said, man, that's a big deal. You should go. You should go and try it out. So I went to Senior Bowl, and there I scored 4 touchdowns and set a record. And a bunch of scouts started coming after that, including the Chiefs. Chiefs came 4 times and eventually drafted me.
So the Senior Bowl. So if you don't play the Senior Bowl, you probably don't go to the NFL.
No, if I didn't play Senior Bowl, I wouldn't have played in the NFL. No.
What did that do for you, though, being at the Senior Bowl? Did that kind of, I mean, for a guy that had such an apprehension to play in it, but physically you excelled, was that maybe the light bulb moment that said, okay, I'm playing against guys from bigger schools, what have you? Was that kind of all the impetus you needed to say, okay, I might be pretty good at this?
You know what? And it never crossed my mind. My thing is, I take care of the things that are in front of me. Mm-hmm. I don't look ahead. I take care of the things in front of me. So if I was playing the Senior Bowl, every practice I took it serious. I learned because I never had a real playbook, but I learned, and I learned a lot. I try to not embarrass myself, and I try not to embarrass my school, my coaches, people that sent me there. So I had to make sure that I knew exactly what I was doing, and that's what I did, and it eventually worked out.
1989, hands down one of the best seasons for a Chiefs running back ever. You edge out Barry Sanders for the NFL rushing title that year. 1,480 yards, 40 touchdowns for your career. But and look, and part of me is saying this as a fan. What was it about those Marty Schottenheimer teams where you guys were tough? You guys were physical. You guys played a disciplined level of football. What was it about the playoffs, though? What changed?
Well, I think if you talk to my teammates, they will tell you that when Marty came, we worked extremely hard. In the training camp, we had 2-a-days that we hit 5 weeks straight, 6 weeks straight with no breaks, 2-a-days. And then, of course, during the season, we worked extremely hard. We wore full pads all week, even sometimes on Saturdays. And so Marty worked us hard. By the time when the end of the season came, we were tired. We were tired. So playoffs wasn't really in the picture at the time. But at the beginning of the season, we were killing people. If you go back and remember how we played, we had great defense. We had 4 players in the backfield that went to the Pro Bowl, defensive backs that went to the Pro Bowl. Duron Cherry, Albert Lewis, Kevin Ross, and Lloyd Burris. It's just one of those things. And we begged Marty to kind of take it easy and cut it back, but he was a stubborn guy. Great coach, but a stubborn guy. So we missed all the chances that we could have had, you see.
When you look at the running back position now, let's call it what it is. Back in your day, you had 2 running backs taken in the top 3. I think Alonzo Highsmith was the first running back taken off the board that year in 1987. It wasn't, Kajana Carter comes to mind. Hell, Barry Sanders, those kind. It was a different deal back in your day. Now you got guys fighting to get as much money as possible. Josh Jacobs is still holding out. Some people are saying Saquon, should have held out longer. Do you see any movement in the running back position? Or, how much? Because I would think, Christian, that, it's still a viable part of an NFL offense.
Well, it's one of those things that kind of gets looked over because I keep telling people when New England were winning the Super Bowls, they did it with running game.
Yeah.
If you go back, Tom Brady is a great quarterback, but he was not throwing 300 yards in the Super Bowl. No. They were running the ball and running it effectively. Even though it's every year, it's a different guy. In this last Super Bowl, in the second half, we started running the ball.
Yeah.
Kansas City started running the ball, and we held on to the ball, and we won the Super Bowl. So if you don't run the ball, you're not going to win. You have to run the ball some, but it's a passing league now. It's a passing league. Football is different. People think, give all these quarterbacks big money. You have to let them sling the ball. So that's exactly what it is. And I feel bad for Saquon Barkley and Jacobs and many others. But they need to get paid because a running back position is a very, very hard position to play. And those guys work extremely hard. They need to be compensated.
Do you think guys, but maybe they look at, and unfortunately, maybe they look at a guy like a Christian Okoye. Now, granted, running backs like Christian Okoye are few and far between in today's NFL. I mean, hell, I don't even know if we see guys. Think about it. The fullback position is getting, taken out of the game now. What would you play in today's NFL, or would you play in today's NFL?
Well, today's NFL, you still run the ball. The same type, plays the offense that Kansas City has right now. Somebody like me can still play in it.
Okay.
Because, we run the ball. Like I said, during the Super Bowl, we ran the ball. We have to run the ball. But again, it's been overlooked, the importance of a running back, because teams that run the ball some tend to win. And if you don't run, you're not going to hold on to the ball. And when you run the ball, it helps your defense. And if you don't run the ball, your defense is weakened. So it's one of those things that coaches have to learn, and they don't. But great coaches know that, and it's usually the old school coaches, like the Belichicks and Andy Reids and so on.
Although you could argue sometimes Andy doesn't run the ball enough. No offense to Steve DeBerg or Dave Craig, but what would Christian Okoye's career look like if he had 15 handing him the rock?
Well, I love Steve DeBerg. Steve DeBerg is a good friend of mine, my guy. And I tell you, that guy is a magician when it comes to play fakes. And that's what we did, because we ran the ball a lot, so you have to fake running the ball, and he did that, and he did that effectively. With 15 being in front of me, I tell you, it's going to be the same thing, but being younger, of course,
right.
It's going to bring it some. And when you throw the ball some, it helps us running backs, you see. So I don't mind the quarterback throwing the ball as much as Patrick Mahomes does, but you have to also rely on the running game, which will help him throw the ball.
Walk me through what that 1989 season was like for you.
Well, 1989 was, of course, my best season. And it was the first year that Marty came to Kansas City. Like he promised. He just, fulfilled his promise, handed me the ball. And, of course, the following year he did the same thing. But 1989 was a breakout year for me. But he gave me the things that I know how to do. That's running the ball. I used my athletic abilities to run the ball. Coming from track and field, I believe I knew. I never answered this question. You asked me about the transition from track and field to running the ball, throwing discus to running the ball. I love to run. Back then, I loved to run. Like I told you, I was competing with my teammates, track and field guys, sprinters. And when I got into the NFL, it paid off.
Mm-hmm.
It paid off big time. So when Marty told me that, I said, okay, bring it on. And he brought it on, and I ran the ball like he wanted me to, and he worked out. We had our, winning season the first year he got there, and winning season the years after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like his style of play, but I don't like his style of practices.
It's funny. I've had a chance to talk to one of your former backfield mates, Harvey Williams, who's here in Houston, and of course he had a colorful way of putting his differences with Marty Schottenheimer. Was the Marty Schottenheimer the guy that much different than Marty Schottenheimer the coach?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Marty, when he spoke to me, he treated me well. Many guys can say whatever they want, but I liked Marty as a person, and
Yeah.
I liked him as a coach too. The only thing I was against was the length of practices and how hard we practiced. That's the only thing. Apart from that, I'm good with him. Many guys may say differently, but yes, when you have a one-on-one, he's a very personable coach. Now he's passed on. May God rest his soul, but that's what it was.
Well, and I think I heard LaDainian Tomlinson say the one thing about Marty Schottenheimer was that he could coach any position on the field.
Well, yeah, he did. He did actually. Every
Yeah.
week before Fridays, when we have our meetings on Fridays, he will go position by position and talk to each position, what to do, how to do it, and so what is expecting them to do. He can, and even special teams,
Right.
He will jump in and say, we should do this, you should do this, and do this way and that. He loved to coach. He was a teacher. He loved to coach. Maybe because of his love for coaching, that he kept us on the practice field for 3 hours beyond.
He couldn't help himself.
Yeah. So.
You play 6 years, and the one thing that always pops out when you read about it, and like I said, I was a kid, so it was one of the things where you just watch 35 get the ball and run people over. And then, of course, I'll ask you about Tecmo Bowl here in just a second. But again, you had 89, 90, 91 again. 1,000, 800, 1,000 yards again, 2 All-Pro seasons, two Pro Bowl years. Probably a 3-year stretch there where you were one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in the entire National Football League. What was it? The knee injury? What was it that kind of going from that, and then in '92 where you're beat up or whatever, you still put up 500 yards of offense on the ground, but was it just too much injury wise, just all too much kind of weighing on you at once, or how did things kind of in there in Kansas City for you?
Well, the whole time I played in the NFL, I never really fell in love with the game.
Okay.
It was work for me. So when it was time for me to leave, when my body, giving me signs that, I should quit, I left. I quit. I called it quits. It was easy for me to call. It was easy for me to call because I didn't play football growing up, so I was not in love with the game. You see, football did a lot for me. I went to the White House and met the president and met a whole lot of friends that I'm still friends with today because of football. But I actually playing football, I never really fell in love with the game. I never liked to watch the game until long after I retired.
So so I was going to say, because that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from you is that, you actually, it sounds like you like football a hell of a lot more now than you did when you were playing.
Yes, I do. I can watch a game now because I'm not playing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing you're probably. I mean, you're it's a video, or it's a video we're doing here. But I'm guessing you're probably about what 230, 240 these days.
Right now, I'm close to 250, 245. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you I've done enough interviews with professional athletes, especially football players. They all say they got at least one series left in them. How many? If I had one game left for Christian Okoye, how many totes is he worth?
I don't have a series left in me, man. I have like one play left. I have a 4th and 1. Maybe 4th and a half a yard. Give me the ball. After that, I'm gonna retire again. But
You're done after that.
But you gotta pay me $15 million for that.
Let's talk about your book. Let's see. The Nigerian Nightmare, My Journey Out of Africa to the Kansas City Chiefs and Beyond. That forward is by Bruce Arians. Again, for Kansas City fans, look, there's not a Chiefs fan, 30 or over, or 35, or definitely my age and older, that doesn't remember 35, that doesn't remember the Nigerian Nightmare. Hell, and I'll ask you about the poster here in just a second because we all had the poster on our wall. Why write the book now?
Well, people have been asking me to write a book, and I've been kind of like looking it over and not really deeply thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But about 4 or 5 years ago, I started thinking about it. I said, okay, maybe I should. Because everywhere I go and speak to a group, and people are telling, man, you got a good story, man. You should put a book out and let people know about you. And so I decided to work on it, and it's finally done.
What was the hardest part about putting this book together, and what's been the most rewarding part about putting this book together?
Well, I think when you read the book, you learn more about Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare. You also learn about what made me and where I came from in Nigeria, the friends that I made, and also the people that made me who I am. Because people usually don't make themselves. You always have people around you that help you out, and I had a bunch of people that around me that helped me out. So it's good to kind of mention those people, and even though you thank them in person and remain friends with them, but having them in the book and appreciating whatever they did for you, it is something that I wanted to do, and I just kind of want to share my story. Coming from Nigeria, growing up in Nigeria, the hardship that I had in Nigeria, and then how difficult it was to come here, and then the transition. People always ask me what happened. You were going to Olympics, just like you asked me. It's all there in the book. How I was left out, and the transition from track and field to football, and so on. So I hope people reading the book, it will inspire them to in their own lives, especially children. High school kids that are kind of trying to figure out what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that this book will help them out too.
Do you get back to Nigeria very often?
I used to go back every year, but I haven't gone back in a few years. So I hope to go back at the end of this year, or maybe beginning of next year.
You still have family back there?
Yes, I still do. Yeah.
You had said there was an article talking about how you had said a while back that you expect to see an influx of Nigerian athletes into the NFL, and look, we've definitely seen Giannis, even though his family came from Nigeria by way of Greece. We're starting to see Amobe Okoye from right here in Houston. Played a few years ago. Now, granted, I think part of his problem was he was just so dadgum young. I think, I had a chance. I did a podcast series last year with some young kids from Nigeria, and you don't realize the powerhouse of athletic talent that is in Nigeria, and how why hasn't that been tapped more? Why what is it about Nigeria? Because again, you want to talk about a sleeping giant, both on a global scale, just from a global business scale and from a athletic scale. What's kind of holding Nigeria back?
Well, Nigeria is I'll say it's a poor country, but that's wrong, because half of it, it's a third world country, so resources are not managed very, very well.
Right.
So it kind of makes it hard for people to get out for that talent to be tapped into. Nigerian population is almost the population of America.
Right.
It's like 200 and something million in a small country the size of Texas.
Yeah.
See, so you have a lot of people that live there. There's no country you go to in the world that you wouldn't see a Nigerian. You see, and in every team in the NFL has a Nigeria playing in it. Every team in the NFL, yes, have a Nigerian as a player.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then it's becoming that way in the NBA right now. So you have a lot of Nigerians coming out slowly. They are working here and doing things, and the Nigerians are hungry, very, very hungry. If you introduce football in Nigeria, there's going to be a lot of people interested in playing. So it's one of those things that That's got to be done and done right. And I think NFL is beginning to open Africa, to playing football, and it's happening gradually.
Start winding this thing down. Number one, the poster, the Nigerian Nightmare. Walk me through that whole process. Did you have any creative input into it? And then I guess the other thing is that, look, you're one of the nicest professional athletes I've ever met in my life, and I've met my fair share. There's nothing nightmarish about your personality and or your demeanor at all. I get it. It's clever, the Nigerian. And yes, you were a nightmare for defenses in the NFL back in your day. Is that kind of how the whole Nigerian Nightmare thing started?
Well, I don't know if you remember the Costacos brothers. They are the ones that made the posters.
Oh, the Costacos brothers were huge back in the day.
That's right. They were making posters for a lot of players, NBA, NFL, even baseball and hockey. And so they called me one day and asked if I was interested. They actually flew me in from Kansas City to come in and do the shoot. And when I came in, everything was set. They are the ones that have all those things made up. So all I had to do is change to the getup that I had. And we had the shoot for about 3-4 hours, and I got something to eat and got on the plane back to Kansas City.
That was it. How many of those posters do you still have?
Oh my goodness, I still have thousands of it. Yeah, my foundation sells it to raise money, so we still have them.
I love it. Post NFL career. What's kind of been, look, and I got to give you credit. I didn't realize that you had started the California Sports Hall of Fame, which you would have thought, which is crazy to me that you started that in 06, 07, which I would have thought, California being California, they would have had one already. What made you decide to start the California Sports Hall of Fame? How was it received? And then I got to give you a shout out because do you oversee the introduction process or the candidates still?
Yeah, well, I oversee it. But all the members select who goes in. But I oversee it, yes.
Well, I got to give you a shout out. Not just for starting it. Even though I'm a Kansas guy, but you put my boy Roy Firestone in 2022.
Yeah. Roy and I go way back.
Man, let me tell you something. I would love, look, after we get over this conversation, Roy Firestone, and you can appreciate this, for all the, for guys doing what I do, for the Jim Romes of the world, Roy Firestone was the guy who started all this. The sport, you heard it on the Sports Look show. Okay. That's where it began and started with Roy Firestone.
Roy Firestone was the guy back then. It was the guy. If you get an interview with Roy Firestone, you've made it.
And you were going to cry. You had to cry on the show.
I know. And then Jim Rome came, and those two guys. I know Jim Rome too. Great guy. So yes, he's my guy.
Excellent. So what has, and I know, you've talked a little bit about, having some, your body aching and what have you, because again, you did put dudes through a beating. Real quick, set the record straight on the Steve Atwater hit.
Well, it's one of those things. If you carry the ball as much as I did, somebody's gonna get you one time, and he got me. Steve Atwater is a great player. He was a great player, and it was good. He got me, and just like I get so many people out there.
You got a few people yourself.
I'm not going to name names, but but yeah, he got me. But one of the things that made it so kind of out there is because it was in Monday Night Football.
It was on Monday Night Football, and it's Chiefs Broncos, right?
Yeah. So.
You real quick, and this is just me being a Chiefs fan. You had back-to-back years where you had Neil Smith drafted, and then of course you get Derek Thomas, RIP. What was practice like? Again, especially considering, like you said, you guys still hit people back in those days, and it was nothing nice. What was it like practicing against those two?
It was the same. We're hitting,
Okay.
3 hours of full pads and live practices, and none of us liked it, but you have to do it. We spoke to Marty about it, but I have to say this: when Joe Montana came my last year, Joe Montana pulled him aside and said, "Coach, we can't practice like this." Joe was the only person he listened to.
Well, I mean, I guess if there's one guy you're going to listen to, and you know what, but wasn't his whole thing too, though, was that was a big Bill Walsh thing? Was it back in the 80s? Yeah, they hit, but they stopped hitting as the season went on.
Exactly. And Bill Walsh, I used to listen to, Ronnie Lott and some of those guys describe how they practice. I said, man, I wish I was playing for the 49ers, because, geez, our games are easier than practices. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Games were easier than practices. I'm telling you.
I know it's easy. I know hindsight is always 2020. Do you think if practices wouldn't have been so brutal, you might have played 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, I would have played longer. I would have played it longer. But after 3 years, I was done. After my first contract, I was done, But, I was doing so well that I was offered another contract. I said, I grew up in a very poor family. I can't just leave this a lot of money on the table and just walk away because I don't like the game. So I went back. I signed another contract and continued playing. So I didn't want to be selfish and leave the game. I have to think about others.
Jack Mills is your agent, correct?
Yes, Jack Mills.
My boy Ted Johnson told me to tell you hello, since you guys shared an agent, and I did radio with Ted here in Houston once upon a time. So he said, tell one of my favorite people I said hello.
Yeah, Jack is one of the best guys out there. He was one of the top two agents back then, Lee Steinberg and him.
Get you out here with this, I guess, kind of a two-part deal. Post NFL, you've done, you had a number of different things you've done. Like I said, you got the Kansas City Goats that you guys are getting ready to start. That season kicks off next year. How has your post NFL career been?
It's been good. I have my foundation for children, which I started in 1990 while I was still playing with the Chiefs. And that foundation is still ongoing. We started out doing the free sports camps for underprivileged kids in the summertime. But now I have transitioned into raising money and taking underprivileged kids to Christmas, shopping, because there's a lot of kids out there that need motivation. They need a hand. They need to meet ball players and kind of hang out with them. So when we do this shopping, I invite a bunch of guys to come in and take them shopping, you see. And then another thing my foundation does is I have a chapter in Nigeria. We have a program going on every Saturday throughout the year, working with children, the same type of kids, trying to motivate them to look ahead and kind of look outside their environment to see what's out there, so they can better set goals for themselves.
2023, Chiefs are looking for a repeat. And, of course, a couple years ago, we saw what happened with the Chiefs. Hell, they made it to the Super Bowl, but obviously one of your favorite coaches, Bruce Arians, and that, Bucks D did everything they could to shut down the Chiefs. I guess, one, how impressed are you with where the Chiefs organization is, just top to bottom? Because I'm sure Clark was just a little whippersnapper back when you were toting the rock. And then B, what's the biggest thing from a Chiefs perspective, from a football perspective, that you're kind of looking at if this team's going to make some noise again in 2023?
I just love what's going on. I kind of put my foot in my mouth a few years back when Chiefs were not moving ahead. The first time Andy Reid came in, I was thinking, man, did we hire the right guy? And I said a few things, but now I'm eating my words. I tell you, Andy is the right guy. I know Andy is a great, great guy. Players love to play for him. It's one of those things that you want in your team. And the players are just having fun playing for Andy Reid and playing with Patrick Mahomes, who is just a joy to watch, a joy to be around. I don't know him very well, but players love him. His teammates, and that's what you need in a team, is having teams love each other, play for each other, for the team and for the city, and enjoy what they're doing. And Andy Reid is, Andy Reid is handling everything correctly for the team.
What's the biggest, look, obviously Chris Jones better be in, you need Chris Jones because that defensive line just doesn't look the same without him. Of course, it doesn't hurt when you get the second best D tackle in all of football. Pass rush has been, not great the first 2 weeks of the preseason. And then, of course, I think the offensive line's as strong a group as the Chiefs have. Wide receiver room is obviously untested. We're going to wait and see there. Is there anything else that you're looking at? I know you look at the running backs. What's kind of on, when 35 is looking at this Chiefs roster outside of 15, what's kind of, what not necessarily gives you concern, but what are some things that you want to look at in 2023 if this team's going to make a repeat bid?
I'm not worried about anything when it comes to the Chiefs. Last year, before the season last year, people were saying, oh, when you lose Tyreek Hill, you're done. You're not going to make the playoffs. A lot of people were saying that.
Yeah.
And they made the playoffs. They won the division. They played in the AFC Championship. They won that. They played in the Super Bowl. They won that. I mean, what else do you want to know? So I'm not worried about what's going on. These guys, they're coming out and they're playing and they're having fun. So I'm not going to try to guess anything. So we're just going to wait and see.
No, we certainly are. The Nigerian Nightmare, My Journey Out of Africa to the Kansas City Chiefs and Beyond. The hardcover comes out November 7th, 2023. Is there anything else out there, Christian, that the Chiefs fans or just fans of the Nigerian Nightmare are missing out on in between now and November 7th?
No, you're not missing out on anything. If you want to pre-order, just Google Nigerian Nightmare on Amazon and you will get your book and it will be shipped to you. So,
and real quick, where can they find you on social media?
Social media is at Christian Okoye 35.
Christian Okoye 35, the one, the only. Mr. Okoye, I can't thank you enough. This is, this is kind of two things for me. One, being a kid that grew up watching number 35 and always, being a fan. And by the way, you were just an absolute freak show on Tecmo Bowl, which, by the way, I found out through, again, doing research for this interview. You didn't realize that you were such a beast in Tecmo until like a decade ago?
No, I didn't. People would keep talking about it. I'm like, what are they talking about? And I never saw the game until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
How did you not? I mean, guys weren't playing Nintendo back in the day?
I don't know, man. I didn't play any video games. I still don't. People talk about Madden and kids. I go to high schools to speak to kids, and they tell me, "Man, you're a legend, Madden. You're a Madden legend, or something like that." And I said, "Okay." I've never seen it, so.
I love it. No, Tecmo Super Bowl, for those of us old heads that still remember the original Nintendo, tell you what, between you, Barry Word, and I want to say even, I think it's Harvey Williams. I think you guys are the three running backs on that team. So do you keep up with Barry Word much anymore?
Oh, yeah. Barry is one of my best friends. I talked to Harvey Williams once in a great while. And there's a fourth guy called Bill Jones. Bill Jones was my fullback in the short yardages, So great blocker, but crazy as hell. We love him.
That's fantastic. Well, Christian, once again, my man, I'm sure we'll see you at some Chiefs games again this year. Love to have you. And I'm guessing you watch Chiefs every Sunday.
Yes, I do, man. Yes, I do.
As you should. Well, I'll tell you what, let's catch up again mid-season. We're going to be talking Chiefs all season long, so I'd love to get your thoughts on what you're seeing throughout the course of the football season. And like I said, in the meantime, looking forward to that book coming out November 7th. I know I'll be all over it. I know a lot of Chiefs fans will be as well.
Well, thank you, my man. God bless you.
Christian, take care, my man. God bless you.
Take care.
You bet. That was Chiefs legendary running back Christian Okoye on the show. God bless him once again. Great stuff from Christian, talking a little bit about his career in the NFL as well as with the Chiefs. And, like I said, I mean, you don't realize, we hear all the time about guys trying to make that jump from track to the NFL, but you just don't, or just football in general, but you don't see guys, being throwers and that sort of thing making it. So once again, huge shout out to one Mr. Christian Okoye for jumping on the show with us. A lot of good stuff from him. And again, make sure you check out his book coming out November 7th, 2023, The Nigerian Nightmare, My Journey Out of Africa to the Kansas City Chiefs and Beyond. Look, stay tuned. We've got a big announcement, another big guest coming up this week. That we're going to sit down, a Big Chief Show exclusive sit down that we had. We're going to air that on Friday, but in order to know who that is, you got to stay tuned. At the Freddie D on Instagram, Twitter, and then, of course, Chief Studios YouTube on IG, Chief Studios on Twitter. I guess it's X now, right? That's what they're calling it. But a big guest that we're looking forward to. Already got that in the hopper. Our boy Tab's taking care of that. Shout out to my boy Taylor for, he's putting out great content here on the site as well. And he's the genius and the brainchild behind all this. I'm just a guy that talks a lot. So what can I say about that? But our boy Tab and myself are doing big boy things here on Chief Studio. So hopefully you guys stick around for that. But again, big announcement coming tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, the one, the only Bit of Mike Babbo joins me once again for kind of a midweek look at everything preseason Chiefs and the rest of the National Football League. And of course, we got guests coming up all year long. We mentioned Ted Johnson, shared an agent with Christian. He'll be on later on in the year as well. Of course, my boy Henry Thomas, and we've got some other Chiefs that we're efforting to get on the show as well. So come on now. We got big things happening. If you want to be a part of it, check us out. Follow us, like us, subscribe to the channel. You will be glad that you did. Shout out to my folks over at Core 4 Roofing. Go to core4roofing.com for the best in roofing here in Houston, Dallas, as well as throughout the entire Lone Star State. Also, to eSIM Studios, Chief Studios. Give us a follow. Give us a like. You will be glad you did. Big announcement coming tomorrow. Guests we've got coming on later this week. Bit of Mike Babbo on Wednesday. This has been the Big Chief Show. I'm still that dude, Freddie D. H-Town, Kansas City, and everywhere else. We love you. Take care.